cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul's awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Wishing a blessed Easter Monday to you and your family, you divine lions and lionesses. And I'm joined once again on this live stream with Juan O'Savin. He has served America since the days of Ronald Reagan in multiple capacities, helped resurrect Sound of Freedom film, was recently with Mel Gibson in Italy during filming for the resurrection, and returns with me, Brad Wozny, for one of the most explosive conversations yet. He's been a white hat for decades, and he'll weigh in on Iran, deep state fraud, Canada, extinction-level event scenarios, looming lockdown concerns, disclosure. We may even talk about Space Force, UAPs, anti-gravitics, ion and plasma propulsion, ancient gateways, and biblical revelations, which he believes are converging in real time and which you cannot deny is complete spiritual warfare. This is a sweeping look at hidden systems, suppressed technologies, prophetic timing, and the battle over what humanity is finally allowed to know. If even half of what we've discussed here is true, the world is far stranger, and we're far closer to transformation than most realize. We'll see you soon. And welcome. Here we are on this Easter Monday, everybody. And still waiting for Juan to show up. Usually runs a few minutes behind. Ben is extremely busy and travels around the world with a massive network. But I have quite a few things to share with you as well. I just finished watching the press conference with President Trump, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, General Raising Kane, and Central Casting CIA Director John Ratcliffe. That's exactly what Trump called him when he introduced him. He's like, here's John Ratcliffe, CIA Director, Central Casting. If we were casting a movie, he would be Central Casting. So Central Casting, John Ratcliffe, please. He's like, thank you, Mr. President. And off we go. So that is an update on the rescue of the F-15 pilot and the electronic weapons systems officer who rides backseat. If you remember Top Gun, like the Rio Goose was the radar intercept officer, and the F-14 Tomcat, Tom Cruise was the pilot. That's what they just updated on. So it was pretty impressive, like extremely impressive to a point in time. I've got a couple of facts here for you. So as President Trump just stated, this 2 hours ago, not even, there were over 10,000 air sorties, which have been flown by United States forces over the Strait, or as the weave of Hormuz. We saw Poppy Trump on that one today, which is great. It's not really straight. It's more of a weave. We should call it a weave of Hormuz. And anyway, there's the levity, right? We're getting into the levity. And 10,000 air sorties in less than the last 3 weeks. 13,000 targets have been struck and eliminated. And you have one downed aircraft. So look at the percentile of that. Is incredible. And there is nothing like it in the history of any warfare in terms of the amount of combat missions which have been flown versus only one downed aircraft. Now, there were a couple of other aircraft you might have heard of. So just a couple of the updates here. Looking at my phone as another text came in, but it's not Juan. Juan has a very specific ring when he calls me or he texts me. So you'll hear that if he texts back or he just hops onto the live stream. But until then, a couple of incredible facts here, right? Number one, they took 7 hours flying in broad daylight to get the pilot. And then the electronic warfare systems officer, electronic weapons systems officer, warfare, I guess. I kind of interchanged that, but at the end of the day, weapons warfare, here we are. Sitting here, a colonel who finally climbed to the top about a mile up a mountain, turned on his emergency locator beacon, and first broadcasted, God is good. Still with his injuries, hid in a cave for an entire day until a Saturday night. Came in, they rescued him yesterday on the resurrection day. And not a single member of the United States military was KIA. They've had some wounded individuals, right? So they've lost 2 MC-130 commando transport aircraft, which are completely outfitted, which you're typically going to have your Spec Ops, the Delta Force, the U.S. SEAL Team 6, which is involved. That's already been acknowledged, as well as other operators. JTAC, if you remember my soul speak here with Dominic Luke, not a JTAC, sorry, United States Air Force pararescueman, who is also JTAC as well. He got his JTAC training when he was overseas in combat, Dominic Luke. They were also involved. There was a A-10 Warthog. There we go. Give me 7-8 minutes. Got sidetracked. No worries. So he'll be here in 7-8 minutes. So they had an A-10 Warthog tank buster, which had been hit with a man pad, but pilot was able to safely eject over friendly skies. They rescued the pilot. All good. And then because of the wet, sandy ground of the MC-130s to pick up everybody, those had to be left behind, as well as a few other helicopters. It looks like those might be the Little Birds. If you remember, those came to real fame in terms of the Hollywood movie Black Hawk Down, of which Colonel Sellers, deputy commander, was he retired of Delta Force. You know, he'd done a lot of training on the Little Birds. So you've got the Seesaw pilots, right, of the 160 Special Operation Aviation Regiment. So they took out all of the sensitive information, and then they bombed thermite grenades, bombed the heck out of those. So those IRGC could not get anything out of it whatsoever. So here you have, it was supposed to be a media blackout, right? It's national security. And then Trump says, well, somebody on Friday leaked that there was another pilot, the officer, the backseat. And we didn't want that out there for national security reasons. And the moment they leaked that to the press, and that particular publication put it out, the entire Iraqi regime, what's left standing, put out a bounty. I've seen it reported 60 grand, 60,000 US, which is a massive sum of money there. And he said millions of people were hunting for this pilot. They weren't supposed to know that. So we are investigating because that person who leaked that information is going to jail. And he spent a few minutes on it. So again, FAFO, because they literally jeopardized all the lives of those US military soldiers, sailors, airmen, airwomen as well, and everybody on the ground, as well as obviously the pilot and his backseat, the colonel, completely jeopardized it. National security. So they should have a military tribunal, and as far as I'm concerned, probably be locked up the rest of their freaking life, right? For doing that, for just leaking information at a national security level, which can hasten death in life, which, by the way, is what they continue to do in China, Venezuela right now, right? So let's go over to that, because again, extinction level event is what we are titling this, because Juan has incredible information to share with all of you. I'm not going to get ahead and front run any of his information, but you're still seeing an extinction level event across the world, in particular in the borders, or what's known as the fake borders of Canada. So once again, let's also remember here, Sovereign Soul Show. I have done over 100 shows where we have posted the link just to sec.gov, which shows that Canada is a crown corporation registered in Washington, D.C., July 1st, 1867, and is a juridical state of D.C., which then the umbrella corporation to it is 1871, and the Organic Act became the United States of America. So USA Inc. owns Canada, yet when you look at the DC code, right, the DC code states that Canada in and of itself, from a legal standpoint, is defined by, in the definition, and this is, by the way, DC code 50-1301.36, definition state of DC, Supreme Court of Corporate Canada ruled that Canada, when referred to in section 91 of the now void 1893 British North American Act in 1867, does not refer to Canada as a geographical unit, but refers to Canada as a juristic federal unit, not geographical. And you can see the Interpretations Act, section 35 for that. So the definitions for Canada includes the internal and territorial waters. That's it. So Canada is just water, commerce, no landmass. In fact, of all recorded law, all addresses and legal person, surname persons are purely juridical, right? So that, again, straw man. Or people go, okay, well, you know, straw man cometh, even though President Trump put it out there and the New York Post picked that up a few weeks ago and put it on the head of their paper. Well, here we are, straw man cometh. We're talking about social insurance numbers. If you register with Vital Statistics Canada, then they register you in the District of Columbia, all there. So again, the eastern half of the Canada Crown Corporation, remember, I'm sitting here as a man who signed up and volunteered, Canadian Infantry service member, thought I had a sovereign nation, and now we're well aware of what has been usurped. So if you have a social security number, or a social insurance number in the Commonwealth, Canada, for example, you're registered as an American entity in Washington, D.C. And that's all there. We've done shows on that. And here it is, right? And this extends to everything around the Commonwealth. But let's talk about the extinction level event, which continues to go on right now. So Alberta Memes is posted an amazing little graphic because we were breaking it down for the Alberta independence movement. And they were showing how much revenue is possible in Alberta. And right now, just a collation of all that comes to the top. If Alberta was treated as a country, it would be the second richest country in the world. And then you see Canada down here at 187. That's pretty telling, right? Why is that? Well, because it's the fourth largest oil producer in natural gas. You have the oil sands of northwestern Alberta, Fort McMurray. Everybody can take a look at that. Northwest or northeast. And we're sitting here going, we need the independence. We are Albertans. Raise a hand, everybody Albertan here. There you go. I've got mine up. But let's just get back to why China continues to be called a country which is right now executed more Canadians than all of Nazis combined in 1930. Why? Well, here it is. As Chris Erickson posted, a weekly reminder that a former CSIS officer stated they can prove every federal government, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau, have been compromised by agents of the CCP. Here's a 30-second clip on this one.
I want to be very clear. We can prove that every federal government, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau, have been compromised by agents of the Communist China. Every government were informed at one point or another. Every government choose to ignore CSIS warning either by negligence, self-interest, or partisanship. Every government were infiltrated by agents of influence acting on behalf of the Chinese government, and we knew who they were. I want to be very clear.
Not surprising, right? Well, let's get over to this. Let's just remember exactly what they did with the brown shirts. And right before I came on here, I was on the horn with Norman Traversy. So he's got an amazing update in Ottawa, which will be coming out this week. So stand by as we share that. Here's table salt on We'd Never Forget.
The weapons on their own people.
All we are saying, give peace a chance. All we are saying,
Pepper spray is out. The weapons on their own people.
give peace a chance.
Hey, you don't have to hit him like that.
There you go. You got the RCMP rolling in heavy, Ottawa Police Services, and the brown shirts from the United Nations planes, which were flown into North Bay. We have all the photos and the evidence of that fact. And then what did they do? They had veterans praying at the war cenotaph, and they started beating them up. The same thing that did with men, women, children, and the assault is just crazy. Here is as well with medical assistance in death, which they stopped reporting the execution of Canadians in 2024 October. This is on Odessa Orlowich right now. Came out just today. This powerful clip, I'm not going to play all 3 minutes of it. What it states, for anybody who can't read this if you're driving, Canadian vascular surgeon calls out the atrocities of how badly medical assistance in death is being done in Canada. You have up to 2 hours to die. There's no training. You get a fee code. Like you walk into a grocery store, you get a fee code. They're not using anesthesiologists. Only a quarter are getting the proper kill shot, not even the shot that's supposed to take you out. It's not quick, not dignified, and not necessarily painless. I have shown footage from other doctors that have said the shot that they give to people cause them instant paralysis. And when they have instant paralysis, then that individual dies in their own bodily fluid. So it's massive torture, which is going on. Let me take you over to Odessa on this right now, and you can listen to it for a brief minute.
That if you are going to have MAID, you're going to have a quick, painless, and dignified death, right? Based on the report, it is not quick. Based on the report, I doubt that it is painless. And based on the report, The only reason why it's dignified is because of one of the drugs that is given.
It's because it's a paralysis drug that makes it seem like you're fine.
Correct. 79% of the people.
There you are. So that's from the surgeon who's speaking out. I appreciate it. And what continues to come out as we've been talking about chemtrails. Well, here is my former attorney as somebody who didn't get the jab, right, in the class action lawsuit from the Gray Matter podcast, reposting, Leighton Gray, the attorney, reposting, great man in Alberta, reposting a clip from Mike Lindell TV. And here it says, this sounds nuts. Is Canada seeding the skies with aerosolized vaccines? Listen to the disturbing development of inhaled COVID-19 vaccines at McMaster University. So here's a minute on Mike Lindell TV in the States covering this in China.
Some important breaking news you might have missed in the chaos of the Middle East war. The Alberta sovereignty movement achieved their 177,000 signature threshold for the Alberta independence referendum. And it sounds like it couldn't come soon enough because a Canadian university created an aerosolized version of the so-called COVID vaccine. There are now many fears amongst Canadians, notably those in Alberta, that the Canadian federal government is secretly seeding clouds over their country with these aerosolized vaccines. My next guest is an Alberta-based attorney and the host of Gray Matters podcast. He's also the author, most recently, of the book, Lies, Laws, and Liberty. It is Leighton Gray, and he joins us now. Okay, let's start with the win. The good news is...
I'm just going to play the next 45 seconds. People can go over to Leighton's link here on X, Gray Matter Podcast. Follow, once again. This is a former attorney in the class action, and you're like, wait, why are you sovereign and you have an attorney? Because the way that what you do is it's death by 1,000 cuts for the deep state, right? So they don't like it that you're involved in lawsuits against them. On top of that, you're leveraging divine natural law. You just go after it every which way, everyone. You do not bow, like Pastor Artur Pawlowski says. Remember, the book is Lions Do Not Bow. Here's that next 45 seconds about Canada seeding clouds with aerosolized vaccines.
Is the Alberta sovereignty movement achieved the signatures? What exactly does that mean, and what happens next? Good to see you, Leighton.
Well, yeah, it's nice to see you too. I think, firstly, there probably are a lot more than 177,000 signatures. And I think that ultimately the referendum that's going to happen on October 19th is probably going to result in favor of about between 60 and 65%. Unfortunately, that will not automatically make Alberta independent because there's a federal law called the Clarity Act, which is ironically named. And what it does is it sends Alberta negotiators into a forced negotiation with the federal government to negotiate, the when, the where, the how, and everything else about what an independent Alberta is going to look like. And what my concern is, as an advocate for Alberta independence, is that this government in Ottawa is going to try to create a sort of a quagmire in the negotiation and try to prevent Alberta from leaving. And that still is a distinct possibility.
So you guys can continue all of that across here. You can find out more with regards to Leighton on the aerosolization of the vaccines from McMaster. Remember, UBC, University of British Columbia, and part of Trudeau Foundation on Arbutus Street in Vancouver have been implicated in the creation of those, as the Alliance of Indigenous Nations Tribunal has ruled, weapons of mass destruction, COVID-19. And it'll continue on. So we, the people everywhere, have to stand up, push back in your communities. No way are you going to get freedom if you sit down there and you wait for everybody else to do it. And speaking of not getting freedom, and speaking about extinction level event, they also bring in their own Gestapo. Here it is, thanks to Wealth Moose, on the RCMP recruitment video in Regina, Saskatchewan. Welcome to Canada. Does anybody know how to translate this for me? Just listen to these 57 seconds of men dressed up in RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, have no oath to people. They only have an oath to the crown. Here it is.
ਹੈਲੋ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰਜਾਈਨਾ ਸਸਕੈਚੁਅਨ ਚ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਰਸੀਐਮਪੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆਫ
No, this is not on fast. This is not English, nor is it French. It is whatever that guy's language is. And it's a recruitment video.
ਬਣਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ 12 ਅਪ੍ਰੈਲ ਨੂੰ ਰਜਾਈਨਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰੇ 10 ਵਜੇ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 1 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਕੁਮਰਾਹਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੋਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਦੋ ਜਣੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਹੋਰ ਹੋਣੇ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਰਿਕਰੂਟਿੰਗ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਜੋ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ
Well, at least we got that recruiting event.
ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਹੋਵੇ ਮੈਂ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਦੱਸੂਗਾ ਮੋਰਾ
ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੋਈ ਹਾਇਰਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਲਈ ਕੋਈ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟਸ ਨੇ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੁਲਿਸਿੰਗ ਲਾਈਫ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਦੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਹਰੇਕ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਲਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੋਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਮਰਜੋਤ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਤੇ
There you go. I think you all get the idea. Extinction level event everywhere. And if you think, well, that's future and that's still coming, remember they just 6 Ottawa police cops grabbed Norman Tropsy, said he wasn't under arrest, put cuffs on him, took him to Ottawa General Hospital a week ago Saturday, kept him there 7.5 hours in solitary. And as Norman continued to say, they denied him food, water, legal counsel, the ability to people to see him, and they attempted to force vaccinate him to murder him. Those are his words. He was on here in the show. He's got more coming out about that. And if you're thinking, that's just on isolated cases, well, here it is on a 102-year-old man. This is Friday, and it's now been updated since this 102-year-old man that they came for in Tillsonburg, Ontario. Now, if anybody knows Johnny Cash in the US, the Canadian equivalent to Johnny Cash is Stomp Tom Connors. He wrote a song called Tillsonburg. And here it is. This is from donaldbest.ca. Do not comply. And this is 1.4 million views, 10,000 reposts, 1,800 comments in 17 hours. Most viral X post ever, exceeding the previous champion about Ottawa Police Detective Helen Bruce, who is investigating why children are dying when they receive the COVID-19 vaccine. And Ottawa police went to throw her in jail and lock her away and throw away the key. So here it is, everything with regards to the man, the 102-year-old man, who they came to the door and they want to take him away. And the son is worried they're going to maim him. And this man even says, I'm not going. Here's a quick part of the video.
Dad, the police is here to take you away. Donna wants you to be taken away with the police. Okay? You can tell the police officer what you want.
Where is gonna put me?
Come here. There. Come closer. Come closer.
I just don't go and they throw me out.
No, I'm not opening the door. I told you that. What don't you understand? You can break the glass and take them by force. Well, then that's it. Yeah, I know the reason you're here. Because you have an order to extract them out of the house. Yeah.
I know my lawyer here.
Just hang on. What did you say?
My lawyer comes, I go.
You don't have a lawyer. He says if his lawyer comes, he'll talk to his lawyer.
My lawyer.
The judge overrides that decision by the lawyer.
Well, he's got capacity. He has capacity. Okay? So he can make his own decisions. There's no ruling that he doesn't have capacity. That's right.
The judge has kind of overridden all of our decisions. So
Not his decision. Not his decision.
So the son, this goes on for over 15 minutes. The son fighting to ensure with his father, who seems to be of sound mind right there, right? Not to go, because they are absolutely afraid that he will be mated. Now, the update on that is the court has given another ruling. Here's the last few seconds.
I am civil. No, I am. That's your opinion. Yeah, that's right. I do. So we'll get something to amplify.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to stand up, everybody, all around the world, Australia as well, peacefully, right? And look at how powerful it is to stand up on that. Juan is just entering here right now, everyone. And it's wonderful. Juan, if you need another few minutes, my good man, good sir, thank you very much for being here. Go ahead and take it.
Hey, how you doing there, bro?
Doing very well, Juan. How about yourself, sir?
Good. I apologize. I got distracted and it was normal day. So
No worries, Juan. We spent the last 25 minutes still covering off extinction level events, from whether it's Canada or airslide vaccines to.
Well,
it was incredible today. See the talk about the rescue events. We've just covered a bit of that here as well.
yeah. One thing about, you talk about a near-death experience, no matter how it happens, you could be in the largest crowd. You could be all by yourself. It's still very, very, very personal. Even with those pilots, the event itself, you could have it in a group setting, you could have it individually, but a near-death experience is still, about as personal as it gets. And those guys just had one. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really glad they got out of here safe, Juan. And if you need a minute or two to catch up, I can just roll our trailer once again for everybody as we reset here, because I was covering a lot of stuff going on in Venezuela and Alberta right before.
No, let's dive right into it. Love to whatever suits you for your what's the best for what you're doing there. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we have a couple hundred people on Rumble and a bunch of dozen here on YouTube who are watching right now saying hello, Juan. We've got everybody coming in from North Florida to Alberta, bonus Alberta, which is great, and to the UK, it seems, who have posted here. And Juan, I'll just put the thumbnail up here once again for everybody on the show, right? And the links are below the show on Rumble and YouTube. Going to be adding them here in a moment. To Patriot Gumroad for Juan, JenniferMac.com, his lovely wife, and then also the Fighting Fraud event, which is coming up in Las Vegas. Juan will be talking a little bit about it, but you can still, Juan, can we still order copies of Kid by the Side of the Road on your website? And what everybody sees here are my original copies that you signed when we were last together in Truth Tour.
Yeah, just so you know, I mean, we've, it's a bestseller. We've sold in the low six figures, mid six figures of the book. I'm down to, I said I wouldn't redo the first edition, and we're down to, I think, about 900 or 1,000 copies of that left. So there's not much left, and but we'll sell them to the wall and probably hold back 100 or 200 for somewhere out in the future. But we got a few of the Japanese editions, which are very unusual. And of course, South Korea, if somebody's on the line from South Korea, there actually am going back to South Korea. Probably here, we had a date that we moved just the other day. I wanted to be over for the cherry blossom festivals in Tokyo and then go over to South Korea. South Korea on the election stuff, the attack on the president, very, very close to my heart. We have a lot on the line there, and for stability out throughout the whole region. And South Korea is far more important in this global landscape than I think most people fully realize. And if you consider the deep state players that are really a problem across the world, they are playing ping pong with the media and with the American psyche. And so they'll do something in the Mideast, and they'll do something in South America, then they'll do something in Asia, and back and forth to keep us stretching around the world. Something will happen in London. So what Trump has done, he's kind of created a counterbalance to that. They want to bounce us all over the world. He'll bounce them up to Greenland. He'll bounce them over to something with Ukraine and down to Africa and other places. So, for I mentioned Africa. Know this. President Trump asked the Department to do a look-see on President Ramaphosa there in South Africa, and the same as he did with Maduro in Venezuela. And so they put out that $50 million bounty on Maduro and ultimately went and picked him up. We're considering something similar for all sorts of crimes on the part of Ramaphosa and people around him in South Africa. And he's going to be on the list somewhere in here. And things going on up into Central Africa, the Congo, Uganda, other places there in the region where they've been doing all sorts of mischief. Of course, Iran was doing naval exercises with South Africa up until about 4 months ago. And, very tied together at the hip on a lot of this stuff. So they've been running us all over the map, and we're about to, run them all over the map back. And that's what Trump is really doing in preparation for arrests, both internationally and domestically, primarily people involved in the 2020 election fraud. And the reason I mention all of that tied into South Korea, the same people that were frauding elections all over the world did it in South Korea in spring of 2024, and we caught them. And so at some point, that will be a very important conversation that we have to have into South Korea. So I'm glad we have some coverage into there within your listenership.
Awesome one. And with the primary title of the show about extinction level event expanding into Iran, stolen elections, we touch on Tina's update as well, Tina Peters, and maybe even a little bit of the galactic disclosure people keep seeing here as well. On the extinction level event, how should people interpret that one? When it kind of seems like a paradox when people are saying like, well, if President Trump is saying the golden age, what is it about this extinction level event? And we're not talking about made across Canada or aerosolized vaccines and chemtrails in the air in certain parts of the world.
Well, by the way, galactic disclosures, I actually have a coin that we're releasing in just a few minutes.
Oh,
it's not on the, it's only going to be over at Gumroad, not at Jennifer's site.
Okay, I'll show
and,
there it is for everybody to see.
The moon and it'll be an excellent, the Mint says they'll have the first of them out to us in about 30 days. So it is a pre-sale. I'm trying a really sharp pencil on the cost and like that. So the coin isn't posted yet. It'll be posted probably within about a half hour after we end the show today. So
cool.
It'll be very fun. I think I'm only going to do one run of it because it's very narrow audience, and all of our coins are by the year and like that. But this is kind of something special I wanted to do related to the moon stuff and like that. So anyway, it'll be very fun. You're the first audience to even hear that. And I'd hope to have it up on time, but I think I missed a communication from somebody and they weren't able to finish it. So anyway, there you go.
No worries. Well, I had the website up here. I put it into the chats for everybody. So you have it on Rumble and YouTube right now. If you're watching them, if you're listening to this later as a podcast, it's in the description. But, on Juan's site here, you can order the ebook editions all the way to the print editions of Hit by the Side of the Road. And if you can, get one of the silver coins, the collectibles. I think they should be in the Smithsonian, the new Smithsonian one. And I got the Magador coins and the Gitmo ones that you put out. So it's just awesome. Appreciate it.
Well, each of them are so unique. The coin that I wanted to do on the space stuff, Jennifer shot down, and she says, no, I'll do the coin. and she did a magnificent job. So
Nice.
it's very fun. It's unique. It's a little bit retro, but people will really enjoy it. But let me just say this: the reason I wanted to focus on the space stuff before we get to other stuff, Tina and other things. You have to look at the whole world situation and what Trump is doing in a more holistic way, an all-encompassing way. If you don't see that all of these things kind of fit into a bigger matrix, then you really do miss what is happening, why Trump is doing it just this way. As I said, our enemies have been very successful with moving our attention back and forth and up and down anywhere but the most important thing. And about the time you start focusing on something really important, they'll blow a bomb up, have some dramatic thing happen. They'll pull a rabbit out of the hat to take our attention and move it away someplace else. And so we just don't stay on point long enough. What Trump has been doing
taking the
is
towers down.
eliminating. Yeah, he's eliminating those places where they can readily pull us off point on a dime with some emergency crisis. So they were doing it with North Korea, and he's going to blow up the world, and he's going to send a missile somewhere. They were doing it with stuff out of South America, with Venezuela, the Mideast, with Iran. Iran is the terror hub of so much of what goes on, not just in the Mideast, but across much of the world. Again, South Africa, the Congo, Venezuela, and all through South America, even importing Quds Force people through Venezuela coming into the U.S. Wow. So Trump is hard on the attack to bring those things to a head and shut them down. And for example, even on the oil, they have a knife to our throat continuously over whether the oil is going to get shut off to the world. So they get away with all sorts of things over and over and over that we're now reaching a point where that's not going to be allowed to happen. So yes, oil is way up right now. It was down there at about 60, high 50s, low 60 for months and months and months. And now it's up there around 111, 112 today. And we have Iran and the world on notice. Tomorrow clock, 8 o'clock Eastern, all bets are off. And we're going to go in and turn the lights off in Iran. We're going to hit all the power stations, all the bridges, and just bring things to a stop. This isn't an act against the Iranian people. This is against the military and generals and the political side, the mullahs, etc., that want to export their terror to the rest of the world. Remember, they're building missiles, 300,000 missiles in Lebanon, 100,000 missiles in Gaza, all pointed at Israel. Not a couple dozen or a few hundred. 100,000 in Gaza alone, hidden all through those buildings they blew to smithereens. The only reason they weren't able to complete a lot of what they had going there is that, if you remember that huge blast in Beirut that destroyed, miles around the downtown area, the dock area there, that was because this location there at the harbor was where they had brought in this fertilizer, that the fertilizer can be used to fertilize, for crops and like that. It was supposedly headed for Africa, actually South Africa. But it got detained because it didn't have the right paperwork in, at sea. Well, it was brought to Lebanon, and then it just sat there, and it was unloaded onto the docks at that location. The boat was allowed to leave. Well, what was really going on was they had a little game out of Russia, provided this fertilizer that was actually able to be converted into right there at the dock underneath the dock. They had a purification area to refine out that material to make rocket fuel. See, sending rockets from Iran to Lebanon fueled, they're like a great big huge bomb. Only takes a little mishandling, the whole thing, blows up one wrong spark or whatever. Even a bullet, somebody once hit it, you blow the whole thing up. So they moved them unassembled as parts, and then assembled them in Lebanon, assembled them in Gaza. Where's the rocket fuel? It has to be made somewhere. They were making it there in Beirut at the docks. So when that explosion happened in Beirut, it was a fertilizer bomb, if you will. It was all that fertilizer, hundreds of thousands of tons. And when it blew up, you'll see that there was one, like a ignition that was very vertical, narrow flame front. That was the ignition into this assembly area. They were using German equipment that was very able to refine this fuel down to a very high quality propulsion fluid. And then they were shipping it out in trucks to where the missiles were located around Lebanon and fueling these rockets. When that blew up, that manufacturing area under the dock area blew up, they had broader explosions that kind of blew the fertilizer out into a mist, which gets oxygen in around all of the main fertilizer in that cloud. And then the big ignition that just, wiped out the city center there in Beirut. So with that in mind, again, that was Iran and the people there exporting their terror throughout the region. What Trump is saying is enough is enough. We're not going to sit here. Reagan stopped the Cold War. If we hadn't had Reagan, how much longer would the Cold War and the expenses related with that war have gone on? We'd be dealing with the 100-year Cold War instead of a 50-year Cold War. And what Trump is doing, President Trump has decided that he's going to stop this perpetual terrorism machine. Iran, 57 years of this bullshit, and other locations also, and just we're going to nip it in the bud. We're going to stop this, and as we should. And I said 47 years, as we should, and allow people to take a breath and have a life. And if Iran wants to continue to play the game, if the people of Iran are unable to stop the military and the mullahs doing what they're doing, running these plants, these manufacturing facilities, we're going to shut off the machine by cutting off the power to the machine, whatever way we have to do that, so that they may have some stuff that they've stored up, they've backed up, etc. But we're going to stop them from being able to continue to do the manufacturing, shut off the machine itself. Whatever they have, we'll just methodically go after it and wipe it out. War of attrition there. They don't have endless supplies. And once we've got it shut off, then we can look at what we can do to help the Iranian people to recapture control of their government and processes and start their lives over.
Definitely a thing that's necessary to paralyze that entire regime stronghold, from the air then onto the land, and then anything that they might have below it one. So I fully support that. We even saw, though, three weeks ago in Toronto Pearson International, mullahs from Iran who were there, and then RCMP, maybe it's the good side of the RCMP. I don't believe there's a lot of good left there, but anybody that is, God bless them, is showing that the intelligence services have figured out there's over 700 IRGC terrorists just in China, Venezuela alone. across the 4,000 OG terrorist gangs and fentanyl and CCP backers. So I hope that it really works out well there. I'm quite positive it will, because we just heard from the electronic warfare systems officer, the very first words out of his mouth when he turned on his locator beacon when he got to the top of the cliff, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just said, "God is good." That was the first 3 words he said. He broadcasted, "God is good." So here it is. We've got I don't know if you saw the press conference today. I know you're extremely busy and traveling, but my goodness, I watched it. I'm like, well, there you go. Right? Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
Well, though, my chief of staff, Matt Mackey, he was the first pilot to go feet dry into Iraq in Desert Storm, Desert Shield into Desert Storm. Now, that's officially. We had stealth aircraft that went in early and did some stuff. He was electronic warfare aircraft. And so you go in to try and get guys to turn on their radars and shoot at you. So you're the rabbit. Everybody's going to chase. But he was a Marine pilot, flew off carrier deck and went into the fight. Most of these guys are actually, there's a certain faith that you have. There's faith in God, and then there's a faith that you build, a trust. The people that are preparing your aircraft, servicing it, loading the weapons, going through the launch thing, that is, one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And the guys that do it, a lot of them would tell you they wouldn't even, if you just take care of the family, make sure that the dog's fed and all that, they do it for nothing, because it's, it's amazing to fly these unbelievable aircraft and go up there. It's a teenage boy's dream, right? But still, there is a certain esprit de corps and just an attitude that most of these guys have. And we've got, in the coalition, we've got quite a few military pilots, several generals from different of the services that are within the ranks of my coalition. And they're pretty singular in a divine perspective, and it's a warrior spirit. They're not there. I don't know quite how to articulate it exactly, but there's a certain mental presence where they understand that moment to moment, you make it or don't make it, hand of God. There's 1,000 ways you can get taken out. If you know 25 of them, you're a genius. Why? Because there's so many little things. Even you get down below a certain altitude, and ground fire from a handgun, has a prayer getting to you. The systems are amazing, but you can have a system malfunction, even at the point where you got to pull your eject handles. There's lots of things that can go wonky when that happens, and so that's not, and even getting on the ground, you're in different directions. They eject a little bit different directions, so you don't have one person hitting the other as they're flying out of the vehicle. You can get separated for 1,000 reasons as you come down, which they did. So, you tend to get a God consciousness. You realize that, moment to moment, you're there because, God's got you, grace of God type thing. And the reason I mention all of that is that within the context of a near-death experience, people, even, for example, police officers, you get up, kiss the wife, say hi to the kids, give them a hug, you walk out the door. it's like a box of chocolates. One day you get a nut, the next day you get strawberry, cream, whatever. The next day you get a caramel. You just don't know what you're going to get. You're one red alert or passing observation of something, going from a calm day, warm Starbucks coffee, of total adrenaline rush and everything in the world online. I spoke with one of my friends today who's doing some writing work for me, editing some stuff. He was chief of police, 3 major departments. He has been a contractor to 3-letter agencies for a couple of decades. And one of the most unbelievable days of his entire life, he said it was just the most average, normal day. Did some paperwork, wanted to go check a couple of my guys in the field. Just being thorough. I just finished going through somebody's report on an accident, making sure that they got things in there that he wanted in that accident report, so it was quality, because he was relatively new to this department. He was making sure all of his guys understood what he expected. Just doing things that are normal cop things, supervisor things. And then they get the call, bank robbery in progress. And it led to one of the most amazing days he's ever had in his entire life. I mean, everything on the line, women, children, police officers, every angle. And what struck him about it was that the contrast and the instantaneousness of it, it hits you like snake bite. You don't even see it coming. And that's part of what, I have always taught guys in some of these realms: expect the unexpected. You have to be moment to moment in an emergency. What would I do here? How would I react there? If you're, in a police officer's routine, where's the shortcuts? Where's the bypasses? Is that sidewalk safe for me to use, or am I going to hit a pedestrian there? What time of day is it? What's going on? And you just, in your life today, you might think there's 2 or 3 really major threats you might have, but probably the one that gets you don't even hear that bullet coming for you. And so how do you anticipate and not put yourself in harm's way unnecessarily, or prepare? Sometimes a fight's coming, and scripture says a wise man sees trouble and gets out of the way. Do the people in this audience understand the magnitude of the risk of what's going on in the bond markets? Specifically here in America, there's different types of bonds, but about 84% of the bonds here in America are tied to schools. And the school bonds have been engineered in such a way, and it's like everybody's in on the scam. The law firms, the bond issuing firms, the markets, the insurance companies, the politicians, the unions, the retirement funds. One of the things that's interesting here that very few teachers understand, they've been set up. A lot of their 401k money, their retirement money, I had to get a little sip of coffee there, is tied up in the school bonds. And it could be, for some of them, a complete wipeout. And what we're seeing here in the U.S. in the bond market is duplicated in many, many ways in other countries, including Canada. So this perfect storm that's coming in the bond and currency markets is going to be brutal, and people need to kind of anticipate and then look, what can I do to kind of get out of the way at least a little bit. You're not gonna. It's like a tsunami wave. The earthquake already happened. there's a tsunami wave on the way. The only question is, can you get to high ground in time? Can you get to a structure that's not going to get wiped out by the tsunami? You know, some of these skyscrapers have great deep foundations. You get 2, 3, 4 floors up, and you're out of the way of the worst of it, and it'll survive. You might, you know, the parking garage and every apartment's down lower, and the stores are all gone, but you survive the wave. And you know, they go out across the ocean at 300 to 400 miles an hour in the open ocean, but as they close on land or islands, the waters get shallower, the shorelines get shallower, and the wave climbs in height, and then it trades speed for height. And so it might have been moving 300 or 400 miles an hour, but as it gets closer, say to Hawaii or something like that, it'll slow down to 180, 100, you know, or 50, 40, 50 miles an hour. The wave's moving pretty fast, but it might be 80, 100 feet tall, might be 300 feet tall, and in the right situation, come crashing inland. In Hawaii in 1956, there was a tsunami in Chile, and the tsunami wave traveled across the Pacific. No boats were wiped out, nobody died. You know, some of them noted that they got hit by this fast jostling of water, but it was only 3, 4, 5 inches tall. In Hawaii, one little cove there, people saw that the water went out. The tide was lower than it had ever been before. And so this whole bay emptied. So people went down in the bay, they're getting little sharks and they're getting squid and, you know, octopus and all sorts of fish that were just flopping around there because the tide went out so fast. And they thought, you know, we're going to have a great dinner. It's going to be wonderful. We'll have a picnic this afternoon. Who knew there was going to be this low tide today? Nobody told me about it. And then they look up, and out in the distance, you could see the wave cresting, the white mist of the water at the top of this tall cresting wave. And they were kind of wondering about that. And then as it got closer, the people couldn't get out of the muck and out of the this little sorry about that, bay area fast enough. And hundreds died. And then it went up a river valley, and it killed several hundred people on either side of the river valley where the houses and like that were in this low area. They just had no idea this was coming. And that's kind of like what's coming in the bond market. People don't realize it, and if they don't get out of the way, if you get out of the way, you know, you see it, and everybody that's there gets a wipeout. But you could survive this. There's a financial crisis coming in the U.S. It's tied to school bonds. I think it was intended. They were going to use it to distract us in 2028, 29, 30. But I think it's coming sooner. It's coming to a head sooner. And we've already seen just in the last couple of days, of course, I've been talking about for 6 to 8 months that it was coming and it was going to be brutal, and making kind of a big thing out of it. And so more of the media have been paying attention. But the reality
I can interject to add backstory to what you were saying directly from you, Juan. It was just last August you were here saying with this audience that, hey, there's a time to be in the markets. Now's not the time, maybe in a year and a half. And I've had 2 different PhD economists who are both gold and precious metals experts. One of them, you know, the other one of late over the last couple of shows, last few months, he's a director of economics at the American Institute for Economic Research, which was stood up when they stole all the gold in 1933. And they said this is extremely wrong when they did that. And what Juan had said, one of the things that he had said, I just reiterated here to the audience. Another one you had said is, by the end of the summer, silver is going to be 50 an ounce. And now we're also seeing precious metal wars. But back to those 2 separate PhD economists who I verified with them, they don't know each other, and they are precious metals experts. One in New York, who is a West Point grad, 2nd Ranger Battalion, served as an officer there was a volunteer, ground zero volunteer, which is amazing because he and I might have been in each other's vicinity back then when they dropped the 3 World Trade Center towers. And you are the only one who has confirmed to me that it was a missile shot in the Pentagon where I was, and then 18 stories below it, just to bring history back here for people. But Juan, what you're mentioning here about the bond markets, both of these different PhD economists have said that the derivatives market, one of them said it could be as much as 400 quadrillion, and that was 3 years ago. And the other one that I just had on said it could be as much as 2 quadrillion in derivatives. And we're talking about bonds and the likelihood that the deep state might have been setting this up for us 2028, 2029 as a distraction. I just kind of want to give that some context and frame it up before you go forward, if that makes sense to everyone.
Well, let me just add this. So within the right circles that understand the finances like that, the derivatives, it's kind of like, for people that don't understand what we're talking here, in the metals market, you have physical metals. Say I want to trade somebody with 1,000 ounces or something. And so I got a pallet with 1,000 ounces of gold on it. So it's pretty obvious I have that. Sometimes what happens is you have banks, they might have, several tons of gold. Now, they don't think everybody's going to come get their gold at exactly the same time. So they've been trading against the gold on deposit. Problem is they've been creating what we refer to as paper silver. And so they're agreeing to buy or sell silver at some certain price. And they know they have actual physical silver on reserve. And so they may, for example, do puts and calls on silver. And in fact, I had recommended to a particular union trust fund that they do this. They had wanted to purchase a large quantity of gold and silver, about $100 million. And I said, well, neither spins nor toils, but you can buy and sell futures against that out of the money and make a pretty good return and do some spreads, and laid out a plan for them that wouldn't put the main silver at high risk and pick up extra money. So they didn't do it, but a consortium of investors that had other union funds did do it. And that was back in, I think, 2019. They had sent me a note here about 6 months ago, before this latest surge, and said that they had made about 5 times their holdings by following that strategy, and they had done extremely well. We're thankful for that.
Awesome.
But what they were really trading was paper silver. The real silver itself was being held, in their vault. Okay. Now look at the banks. What the banks have been doing is they've been going into the markets and doing something similar, but they're not just doing a few times the amount of silver that they have. They're doing 1,000 times. And, people are all currently big into the AI and trading and helping them understand. These guys had AIs assisting them, a decade ago. And they've done very, very well. The problem is that they've now got 1,000 times the amount of physical silver that they control, leveraged with paper, that there's not enough silver to back that paper up by 1,000 times. And they've been making wild amounts of money in these trades. What's going on in silver right now, where you had the big spike the other day, knowing that we were getting ready to go into Iran and do other stuff, it spiked. But what they're manipulating now is to take the air out of the balloon on these paper silver trades and get out of the way of what's coming, because it's going to move up so hard, so decisively, that the paper that they had in play out through the end of the year could wipe them out. So they've been systematic work to negate those speculative positions using, paper silver, non-backed up silver, if you will. The interesting thing that people should also be aware of is that there's a lot of trades going on right now by these same players, and they're buying futures options for December delivery of silver at between $900 and $1,000 an ounce. So, and that's been pretty aggressive. So you have to ask your question: what do they know, and how do they know it? Okay, because something's up there. I've said it's the dollar number for mining that the mining companies would like before they start back up silver mining. We're not mining any significant quantity of silver to meet industrial demand. Trump's going to move the industries back to America from foreign soil. Doing solar collectors, whatever it is that requires electricity to be moved very efficiently. He wants to move that manufacturing back to the United States, and when he does that, and he's put a tariff blockage with a 50% penalty on most all of the places that send mined materials, which includes silver, into the country. So, for example, if you took the spot price today with silver at a little over $70, with the tariffs right off the bat, you would have to pay $105 because there'd be a $35 tariff on the $70 silver, so you'd pay $105, $107 an ounce on the spot price. And then very little of the silver is transacted at spot price, because if you turned it into gold or silver bar, coins, there's expense involved in that. And by the way, the coins that Jen and I have in our sites are not just coins for the open market, or what we would call bag silver, something like that. They're proof quality, so they're a much higher quality. The reflectivity and stuff like that is done. You have to polish the coins before they're minted. Then there's a certain percentage that don't get past the minting process because you'll get a strike that isn't right or whatever, so you have to adjust for that. So these are proof quality coins, the same as U.S. Mint does, for example, for the double eagles proof quality. And by the way, the double eagle proof quality at the U.S. Treasury site, they moved the price up to $185 a coin several months ago, and then they say sold out. They haven't had it, I think, since November something or other. And so we're pretty competitive with our price for a proof quality coin. And then you had the Gitmo one up there. That's from last year. We have a few of those. I have a couple of packages where I sell 5 of the called coins, and then more the Watch the Water from last year that are in production now. And I have just a small quantity of those left. And then this latest one that you're going to see with the moon stuff, President Trump wants to, in the midst of all of this is really important, in the midst of all the drama that we're going through and going to go through the remainder of this year and into next year, arrests because of the election frauds in 2020 and beyond, the financial frauds, and some of the crises that we found there. We, in a very, very Kennedy-esque sense, need to have hope there for the future and for the kids. What's it sound like to the young people if we're all doom and gloom and it's the end of the world and, you know, near death experience, it's all done? Is there a there for them? Are we going to have a world that they get to move into with beauty, high hopes, their chance to have a family and to live the American dream? Absolutely. And so even in the midst of all this, Trump is doing something very Kennedy-esque. He's laid the groundwork years ago in his first term, and we're following through on it now. The current flyby going to the moon, and around the moon, we're going actually deeper into space than man has ever gone before, out past the moon on this lunar return mission. Next year, based on how things go on this flight, the intent is to send a manned mission to the moon, land on the moon, and then with the follow-up flights and systems to take the necessary systems and structures to build a moon base that will be permanently a habitation for mankind, starting with the U.S. by 2030. So, you know, I have one of my listeners' sons. You know, I talked with the family several years ago, and he wanted to go to college, and he had particular interests. He was an athlete and like that. I said, you know, you got to think about mining and a career in the mining industry. And he liked that idea because of where he was from. And so he pursued that. He just graduated a few weeks ago. And when we talked, he was in a competition for mining skills and all that, where they actually go out and, you know, flail away with sledgehammers and timber beams and all sorts of fun stuff. And I didn't hear how that went, but it's kind of a fun idea. That was in Arizona. But I said, you ought to consider going back and doing a PhD on the mining for off-world mining on the moon, best practices for mining on the moon, and Mars and the asteroids and beyond. Because in your lifetime, that's where we're going. Don't stop with just mining here. When we get to the moon, there's going to be some excavation and mining that will be done there. The base itself won't be above ground. It'll be like Antarctica. The main base areas will be below ground. And for, you know, safety with meteorite strikes, things like that. And then materials manufacturing. You're not going to take all of what you need to build that base from the Earth to the moon. You're going there with the right equipment to take what's already there on the moon and turn it into usable building materials, which it's sand, it's glass-like, talcum powder-like sand, glassine in nature. And you're going to melt it down and use it for, you know, these glass structures. It'll be stunning. It's actually glass in a zero-G environment is stronger than steel, about 20 times stronger than steel. So has high tensile strength. So it'll be really fun to do that. But in other words, President Trump is promoting things that have a bright future for this generation and for the next several generations, where mankind is supposed to go. And so this space flight is far more important to us as a people in a very Kennedy-esque sense, JFK to DJT, in what's going on in the world. So, you know, people should be aware of that and enjoy that. And that's why I wanted to have a coin to kind of commemorate that. It's a little deviation from some of the other stuff that we have going, but I think it's absolutely on point. And so I put one together. It'll be available in a few hours.
Awesome, Juan. Let you have a sip of the coffee. Just redirect everybody to Juan's website once again, where you can buy the books, the coins now, and then the coin right after you get off this live in a few hours. And I'm going to see what I can do to muckle onto that in addition to it. By the way,
we
what's
have
going
another
on?
announcement even later. We have another announcement even later in the week on something that I won't even hint at this moment, but we also have something coming up in about.
You're hinting at not hinting.
I'm hoping 30 days.
Okay.
We have something big coming out in about 30 days that I hope people will be excited to come. So there's cool things coming in the pipeline there.
Awesome. Well, when you get your company going where we can travel throughout the solar system, those little, mobile home type of the way that you described it when we were in Anaheim, all those years ago, and go parking up to an asteroid for a long weekend, I'm in. I'm so in, whether it's going to be gold, silver, and what's to come, as long as we all take precautions to make sure, like you said, wise people see what's coming and get out of the way, and everybody's got a level head, and you sit here and just step aside from that tsunami and go to high ground, and then be there and help as many people as you can, let them know it's coming.
Well, the main reason I say it that way is because Trump is on the hunt regarding Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is a private organization. The people that founded that hijacked the lawful position of the Treasury to make and mint coin for money. Kennedy is trying to take that back with the silver certificates and go back to Treasury printed silver certificates. And by many accounts, that's the reason why he was killed. Trump has been very, very blatant in his attack over towards the Federal Reserve and protection of the Treasury, even to the point of putting the security fencing around the White House and around the U.S. Treasury last summer in the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the Army, but not protecting the Federal Reserve building, and in fact kicking the board of governors for the Federal Reserve, these private banks, out of a federal building and closing the building permanently. The fight's on. I mean, even this morning, a number of my calls that I had to field this morning relate to City of London and this fight involving the currencies, Federal Reserve notes, and what the Treasury is going to do in coming back on with Treasury notes and certificates. We've got drama ahead. It's going to be fierce. It's going to be unbelievable. Deep breaths, everybody. You need to get out of the way. If you were in France and the Allies landed and the Nazis are retreating through Paris, you're going to stick your head up in the middle of a firefight? No. Go down deeper in the basement, get out of the way, because you're just going to be collateral damage. You think you're going to help or yell or scream or wave your fist at the Nazis. So it's be wise, understand the environment that you're in, and get out of the way.
Juan, do you feel that I haven't said this, but others that we know, and Michael was saying that there's coming lockdowns. We have seen weeks ago, right before Iran kicked off, energy lockdowns, and a little bit after that, energy lockdowns might be happening, Australia and other places. Do we see that?
Well, part of that actually goes to the situation with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Part of that also goes into the monetary situation with even these bond instruments. You're talking about an inability to complete transactions, energy transactions for these materials. So that's a very, very sketchy moment that's coming there. And, in fact, I'll even go so far as to say this. Well, most people think of the emergency broadcast system coming on because of a missile attack, some cataclysmic thing. You could also have it on in a financial crisis where your credit card doesn't work. You can't go to the bank machine. The gas station can't pump gas because there is a problem within the communications grid. Okay. And so you don't have communication except that's the emergency broadcast system. And that might be closer to what we actually anybody tells you to know exactly what's going to happen, you probably wouldn't just walk away. You don't have to run, but I wouldn't waste time listening to them. There's a number of options, and what is a crisis, say in Canada or the Midwest, may not be fully the same crisis on the West Coast or fully the same crisis on the East Coast, and how it plays out. In highly rural areas, the problems that you face may be strikingly different from what you would face in a downtown Chicago or New York location. And time of year has an impact on it too. So it's a hand of God moment where you need God's hand of assistance, protection, guidance, and for your next choices, next decisions.
Yeah, even Scheinbaum just 4 or 5 days ago, leading into the long weekend, Holy Week, right down here in the Americas, the Southern Americas, said that by the end of the year, no more money. You will be using a central bank digital currency across Mexico. So that warning is out there for everybody. And once again, Mexico mines approximately 20-25% of silver's exports alone, on top of a lot of other precious metals and so many other things. So there's something massive about to hit, and they can't.
And remember, just because they say they're doing something doesn't mean they fully get to pull it off. Mexico, doesn't have, it has a lot of infrastructure. It does not have the infrastructure that even India has, who did go digital themselves. And what you find is that the people found other ways to get around it with other forms of trading. So the success there may not be as universal as they think it's going to be. And so we'll watch and see.
Wild. So do we see anything from suppressed technologies coming up? I mean, we have a lot of Canadians in the chat. South Africa is in here as well, all across the Americas. I probably don't have anybody in Argentina and Chile that said they're here, but here's a question. Can Juan tell us, Canadians, whenabouts will become the 51st state? I will add to that, everybody, that once again, you're seeing President Trump and the White Hat Alliance do everything in a lawful manner and a return to divine natural law. That's my 100% take on it. So we are also seeing, once again, the First Kingdom being restored in a manner in which you were sharing with me 2 years ago on Boxing Day, December 2024 one. Would you like to address anybody? And there you go, 51st state, please. Yeah, the comments are coming in from the Canadians. 51st state, please. Your thoughts on this one?
I have my alarm's going off because I have something else I have to do in a few minutes. So let me just say this, though. If you get right down to it, it would be very hard, even an affront to the Canadian people to try to make them a 51st state. We talk about it. It's kind of a fun thing. The reality is, it's like a marriage. You've aligned your purposes. You are working together. You make some kind of a marriage commitment. But at the end of the day, you're still physically two independent people with a single purpose and combined interests at every level of physicality. But you're still different. And so what we're really looking at with Canada is that the alignment of the various provinces to some type of business arrangements and agreement. You know, Reagan said the business of America is business. We do business. We make things happen. We build things. Part of business is alliances. We engage in agreements with other similar businesses. They have a better specialty. Some companies for an aircraft. I have somebody up in Montana that builds titanium enclosures for certain of the aircraft, for the cockpit area to protect the pilot, and all from ground fire and explosions, things like that. It's very lightweight, extremely strong. The company that they sell those to is a huge company, but they do better making alliances and let somebody specialize in just that one thing. They don't have to have a factory for it that's built to specs. That's their specialty. It's the same thing with, what we're trying to do with Canada. We're really brothers in so many ways. And there's been this desire to keep us separate. But our interests between Canada and the U.S. are greater than Canada's interests even back to England. And a lot of those things were engineered counter to the wishes of the people back at the time that Canada kind of did its own break off. So there's need to have room to do a change up and to get on track where you have a lot of pressure coming in externally for Canada to hold a certain line that doesn't necessarily suit the interests or purposes of the Canadian citizens. Yep. And so these colonies all over the world need room to rethink in a modern world what they're going to do. Is Canada needed as a 51st state to America? It's probably more of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. We're going to become so closely aligned out of mutual need, interests, security, etc., that it may function in a similar manner to being a 51st state, but retain its autonomy more so even than states do here in the U.S. That's probably the correct way to actually look at it. I don't think that the Canadian people, at the end of the day, even the people in this audience, are well served by. It wouldn't be ultimately well received enough across enough of the population to make it work properly. What we do want to do is help the Canadian people to realize more autonomy and put out their forms. That sound right to you?
I got it. I copied that. And then Tina Peters, and then I'll go over to your links here, Juan. Yeah. You've got that next call. So how is Tina doing? And I'll take it over to Jennifer's website. Then I'll take it over to Freedom Fighting Summit coming up.
Okay. So you can imagine that Tina's, 70 years old, doesn't see an end yet. And we've promised, an end with the president's pardon. It should have been over. It's not. But she doesn't want to get out on the wrong grounds. And Governor Polis wants her to admit to the crime and beg for mercy. Please, I'm so sorry I did the horrible things. She didn't do anything wrong. In fact, one of the governor candidates put something out yesterday, essentially saying if he becomes governor, he's not just going to, commuters, he's going to pardon her, even if this governor decides to let her out on humanitarian grounds, he's going to pardon her because she didn't do anything wrong. This whole fiasco has been absolutely, one of the great nightmares that somebody could even imagine they would find themselves in just for being a patriot and doing her job. She could have been thrown in prison for not doing what she did, which was protect the vote information side. She preserved the evidence and exactly what her job required her to do. And I will add this, the courts in Colorado, this appeals court failed to answer any of the more critical questions, just said that she was sentenced wrong because they violated her First Amendment rights by the way the judge sentenced her. The judge is just over the top. But Colorado is the state where the local courts, all the way up through the state Supreme Court, the appeals court, which is what I answered in Tina's case just the other day, said that Trump could be removed from the ballot in Colorado based on these slanderous, fraudulent conviction in New York. And we're learning all about that crime scene in the judicial realm. It went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they determined, and you have to imagine this, we get 5-4 decisions all the time. There's 9 justices. You had a unanimous decision that they couldn't take Trump off the ballot in Colorado. Completely the opposite of what all the Colorado courts said. You couldn't find one liberal justice to agree with any of the Colorado courts that Trump could be taken off the ballot. They said, I got to leave him on. So with that in mind, how much weight do we give to any decision by the Colorado courts in Tina's case? They're out of their minds over there. And very activist. Tina is truly a political prisoner. So with that in mind, will they get overturned at some point? Yes. We're trying to get her out on bond. Anybody else would have been out on bond but her, pending the resentencing. But doesn't look like that'll probably happen either. So, we're working through it. Tina's been a trooper. Her health is in peril right now. But I do think that we will have her out shortly. And if she's out in time, which she may very well be, she will be the belle of the ball at the Fraud Fighters Summit. And that's, I did Bondgate a week and a half ago.
Right.
It was very, very successful there in Vegas. It was invitation only. Only had 100 people there because I wanted to review stuff and make sure that we weren't missing any key stuff as I was, making some pretty wild claims. And all the experts came in and said, no, you're actually understating it, the severity of what's coming. That in mind, and there's so many different fronts where we're in great peril and the frauds are so great, we decided to expand the title because we have several just amazing people scheduled already for it. We haven't published the speaker list yet, but it's world class, and we're building it out a little bit more right now. The absolute biggest names in all of these different areas. And after we named it and said what we wanted to name it and put it out, that's when President Trump announced that Vice President Vance was going to become the fraud czar. Okay, so he liked the terminology. In fact, the president's very aware of the conference coming up. And we have a limited number of tickets available if you want to go. Don't sit on your hands because they should go pretty quickly. We've already sold very significant quantities. So with that in mind, it's pretty reasonable. It's $350 a ticket. It's dinner on the 15th, which is Monday night, as people arrive, and we all get kind of in the zone. Those conclaves will be excellent. I'll be there from the day before, so I'll be around all day to talk with folks. The 16th and the 17th are all day, and we have 3 meals on the 16th, Tuesday, and then 2 meals on Wednesday morning and lunch. And those aren't just like a croissant and a cup of coffee. Those are full on, bacon and eggs and sausage breakfast and the whole share of the very full breakfast opportunity, and full meal for the dinners and lunches, salads, meats and everything else. So they're quality meals. In fact, the Ahern is rated one of the top venues in the city for its catered meals. So part of the reason there's not a lot of restaurants around, there's 3 or 4 right there. There's the Sahara across the street, but I don't want people to feel like they have to go somewhere to get a meal. The conference is going to be very dense. There's a lot going on. So having full meals there, they don't have to go anywhere. And we'll spend the time in the conclave actually enjoying everything we do together. So it will be the place to be. If we get Tina out, we'll have her there. And we have some other speakers that are scheduled that you'll be like, wow, I can't believe that we got this, and they're there. So and they're going to spend time with the audience. The conclaves, the meeting, the talking at a more personal level is a very important thing. They won't be off in some green room disappearing somewhere. This is a different type of engagement that we'll do, and everybody that was at the one a week and a half ago or so thought it was just absolutely fantastic. So we've decided to open this one up to the public. Much of the same issues, but a lot of other stuff thrown in also.
Amazing one. And thank you guys for putting that on. If I could be, I would be attending it as well. And if not, maybe at the Indy in DC in August. I really want to be there for that too. But really appreciate it as well. It's an absolute honor for the amount of service that you have done. You're still standing up for the country and giving advice to people out there, which literally could save their lives and help their families live a better way of life moving forward, and giving us actionable tools. It's a true honor. And thank you very much. You and
well,
your
and let me add one thing. There's a lot of people within, the patriot community, conservative community, whatever, that have gotten very verbose in their anti-Trump rhetoric and criticizing him over Iran and like that, and even generals and others, acting as though Trump is somehow putting the world at peril and everything else because he's taking on Iran and Venezuela and all this stuff. Cuba's coming. We're hard at it with Cuba.
Yep.
In part because we're going to be very, very, very involved right next door there in Guantanamo Bay. As these arrests and housing begin to happen there, the whole world's media is going to be drawn to the area. And Cuba, with its alignments with China, Russia less so, has had a problem. Cuba was relying on that cheap oil out of Venezuela. They're in serious trouble. And we have some help there. By the way, Canada and Cuba, there's been a freeway, thoroughfare going on there for quite a long time.
Castro too, daddy and son.
Yeah, you got it. The acorn didn't fall too far from the tree on that one. And so the long and short of it is, we're actually dealing with a number of these issues where there's hidden alliances. They're having a bit of a joke on the rest of us, and we're kind of done with that. And moving forward, so as we deal with Cuba, some of those reverberations are going to go to Canada also. The need between the people of Canada and the U.S., mining, stuff going up into Greenland, the North Sea Passage, all these different things, our interests are very, very closely aligned. And the people, there is a type of relationship between brother type of relationship that he reiterated naturally there. And we're going to work hard to do certain things. By the way, the robot arm on the space shuttle, that was built in Canada. You have certain technologies there that we're going to want to use, and you have skill sets there. Even with our building out of a moon base, the intent from this administration is to align Canada very closely with what we intend to do there. So any of you kids up there in Canada, get to mining.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Well, I appreciate it, Juan. And then Patriots Gumroad, sorry, allpatriots.gumroad. Once again, I'll show the website here. And if you're watching us by later tonight, everybody, then there's a new surprise announcement from Juan on there. And he sends a newsletter out every now and then from time to time. So that 30-day big announcement, you kind of...
And let me just say this.
Is going to come out.
I am going to be putting something out related to Tina in just the next day or two. So that's coming also. And I'm anxious to get that out there and help to clarify some of the questions there. And there's something else related to Tina that we'll be putting out. But this space coin is going to be a lot of fun. I hope people enjoy that. And that'll be out in just the next few hours.
Well, mahalo Louis Noah, sir. And God bless you and your team and Jen. Appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I was a little bit late getting in here. Let's do one here real soon in the next week or two, and I'll bring you up to speed on some things that we're not ready to talk about right now, but I would like to talk about with your audience.
Copy that. We'll do. We'll be in touch then. Thank you, Juan.
All right. Night, folks.
Right. And folks, so you stay on here. I'll just bring you once back again to Juan, right? And once again, remember, this man has been in service since the days of Ronald Reagan. I've had the fortunate blessing to meet him and be around him for 3 days. I hear the signatures of his own on my book. That's Your Kid by the Side of the Road. That's right inside one of the covers. And then also, let's see if I've got the other one here. Yeah, right on the Q cover. And he gave us specific dates, which were pretty awesome. And what's really key now, you're welcome. Northern Ireland is in here. Fantastic to see Northern Ireland. Thank you for watching this late in the evening. I saw Hirschultz is over on Rumble too from South Africa. And once again, we have it all there. And yes, Canada is going to be next after Cuba. Cuba is part of it. So if you haven't seen, Derek and I, we may be resuming the Where We Go One We Go All Weekly very shortly and knock out another one. We'll see about that. But as you heard, Juan wants to come back on here in the next week and a half with some more updates that he can't yet share, which is really cool. And in the meantime, you can go over there, order a copy of Kid by the Side of the Road. What's really fascinating about it too, where I am right now in South America, I don't have that copy with me. It's up in storage in the Northern Territory, if you will. But when you walk yourself through that book, it takes you to historic alignments, a lot of it with regards to the Kennedy era. Of course, the Kennedy era still continues right now with RFK Jr. and the love story, which has just come out of that beautiful movie between JFK Jr. and his beloved. And that walks you through different aspects of that timeline, which I found quite profound because some of it discusses Q and Q comms, which is powerful. And you just heard Juan talk about the space shuttle now or launch, whatever you want to call it. I guess they call it a moon launch, right? And saying it was very Kennedy-esque. There is a lot there. And once again, the Q plan to save the world is for everybody to become part of it, to decode it, to receive information, because there's a different level of people to be brought along. We're all being brought along to by aspects. And one of those, like I mentioned in the very beginning, with President Trump on the White House press briefing earlier today regarding the rescue of the American F-15 pilot and the colonel who was the electronic weapon systems officer. Trump, when he introduced John Ratcliffe, he goes, John Ratcliffe, central casting, head of our CIA. If you were doing a movie, he would be central casting to be head of the CIA. John, why don't you, go ahead, talk. So it's all there for everybody. And he also did another central casting comment earlier today about, man, those guys who were rescued, if you were doing a movie, it would be like right out of the movie, the way the rescue went down. It would be central casting. So he's putting those comms out there for a lot of people as well in preparation for it. And once again, multiple times, we look at the first kingdom, which is what you're looking at out of the 7 kingdoms. And this is President Trump, one of his many posts on Truth Social regarding Canada, 51st state, and the other ones, and joining everything. This is still well underway. It's what you're seeing move forward with right now. So tomorrow, Gene Decode is up, everybody. And until then, yes, we've had a lot of interest in the water machine. The water machine is rolling out this week. LifeWave X2O water machine rolls out this week to brand partners. Tonight, if you're on our email list, if you're a brand partner of ours, I've already sent out the emails with the private Zoom call information. So it's a public launch for the brand partners first. If anybody wants to know how to become a brand partner, $25, and get on that information, and then you want to share it with your family and whatnot, that's totally cool too. It's going to launch the USA first, and we're still waiting for California, Wisconsin, and Iowa right now to just get the final approval to roll out to those states. So yes, you still going to have aspects of health departments that, even though there's great studies, and I've got to keep it compliant here, the amazing things that light infused water does with X2O. Right now, the state of California, Wisconsin, and Iowa hasn't approved this water machine, which also does filtration, including microplastics, and you can use it with your tap water, turns into light infused water. You have 2 elements, a physical element, and then the water are 2 elements that never existed before on Earth, and that lights up your body as you drink it, as shown in the scans of Carolean photography, which we have. So that is tonight. So pay attention, go check your email. If you have an email from me or you're on a private signal chat that we have for all of our brand partners, there's like tens of thousands, many thousands are in line to order the moment it drops in 3 days on April 9th. And we know that it's just going to take off like wildfire in a very, very good way and do incredible things for the planet. So if you need anything, you can just message us in the chat after we close the show here, and we can give you the contact information to get onto the list, the wait list, or get onto the private trainings. And right now, tonight, we have a vascular surgeon and medical doctor and the #1 expert on this beyond the inventor, David Schmidt, are on a private Zoom with us all tonight, disclosing a lot more about the water machine that the grander public isn't going to see or hear about for almost 1 month's time. So you're all there, all set to go. So everybody, here we are. Thank you very much for being here with this amazing man, Juan O'Savin, on the extinction level event, Iran, deep state fraud, and what they've been trying to push, more lockdowns and the energy crisis. And as we also know, since we have some great Canadians and Albertans, raise your hand if you're Albertan. My hand is raised here in the chat. Tucker Carlson. So here it is. Just so you know, last week, even Tucker Carlson once again coming back and asking that Canada be liberated. So here's a 1-minute, 15-second clip on Tucker Carlson as he's soft launching Canada's 51st state. And here it is.
What about Canada and Mexico? Canada has far more oil than the United States, far more fresh water than the United States. Canada is the fourth biggest oil reserves in the world. Our most critical ally on the globe is Canada.
Just so you know, those 4th largest oil reserves in the world are in Alberta, because Alberta accounts for over 85% of the oil reserves in Canada. So just alone in Alberta, we have over 85% of that, and then nothing still comes close to it as well. So that is the fourth largest oil reserves in the world is with us in Alberta. Continuing.
Canada, the country we ignore. Going forward, as American influence recedes to our hemisphere, what happens in Canada matters more than anything else. Maybe we should try to exert some influence on Canada, not necessarily by force, though by force if necessary. You could certainly make a regime change argument about Canada, talk about a country that's oppressing its own citizens, killed almost 100,000 of them through its state-sponsored killing program, MAIDS. But if ever there was a people that needed liberation from a government that hates them, it's the Canadians, of course. But you could make a case based on self-interest and regional interest, even on decency, to have a lot more positive influence on the internal affairs. Canada's not a sovereign country. It never has been, ever. It's part of the British Commonwealth. It's never been sovereign, and there's no reason that it should be. It should be decent and well run for the benefit of its own citizens.
And there you have it, right? Tucker saying it out loud for everyone. And you all can take a screenshot of this once more. An American corporation is what Canada is. Registered in Washington, D.C., July 1, 1867, as a juridical state of D.C. I have shown on shows, and we have went down this complete, not even a rabbit hole, because it's all there publicly for people to find, from the Securities Exchange Commission to National Archives. And then also we showed the letter on December 10 of 2024, where 3 people at the National Archives in Ottawa spent 2 full weeks working full time, and they could not find in the letter a shred of evidence that Canada has ever existed as a country. That's right there, bringing it up, a 10-page letter delivered December 10, 2024, for the head of the National Archives of Ottawa. So we have it all. It's all coming down to it. But what's also key are all of you wake people up, get involved, get engaged, and share. Share the information, do some of your own research, pull up the links, pull the links that I've shared, others have shared as well, because that allows this to happen a lot faster. And when that, what you're seeing on the screen, happens with President Trump showing the First Kingdom, Canada, Greenland, the United States, as well as the other territories extending into the Caribbean and Cuba, right? Remember, what's all part of that territory as well right there that you're seeing on the screen? Puerto Rico. And of course, on the other side, you have Alaska, which is already part of the states, as well as the Hawaiian Islands, which also, if you remember Michelle Melendez on my show right here just a few days ago, talking about there needs to be a massive cleanup, right? So that we can restore sovereignty in God all across the world. And May 17th, remember, is the National Prayer Day, which is the 250th anniversary of the Day of Repentance, which George Washington said that here in Washington, we will have a National Day of Repentance marked on May 17th every year going forward. So on this 250th, American 250th coming back, President Trump has declared that he is rededicating America to one nation under God. It's freaking amazing and powerful. And this is an incredible time to be alive. And for those of you who were on the show last night, if you didn't see it, I'm going to share the Rumble link here. You can go to some of the biblical decodes, which I had shared from others, and putting it out there for easy for people to see on what happened yesterday in the Resurrection Day, because right now is Easter Monday at the time that we're all joined here on this live screen, right? So you can go down to King of Kings. It's only 39-minute show yesterday on the resurrection of Yeshua. He is risen, that Easter show. It's also here on YouTube right now that you can watch it for those who are on YouTube, and take a look at the biblical numbers and the spiritually significant incidences, what have been happening on certain days while we're in a 40-day ascension window between now and May 15th. And what you heard from Juan about silver and gold coming up, and I shared 2 weeks ago on the Nasara show. If you saw that, once again, that is also there. You can just scroll right down. It was 8 days ago, the Nasara show. You can see it right here on the thumbnail. Nasara, Trump's plan unfolds Cuba, then Canada, and and a gold-backed dollar in Nasara and America's 250th, shared with you a lot of the information, some of which Juan had just reiterated to you, and the futures contracts and the betting on the $900 to $1,000 an ounce silver by December. So here we are. It's absolutely powerful, and it's a great time that we're sitting here to watch this entire world with the leadership of Trump at the moment at the helm, taking us back to sovereignty and God. Thanks everybody for being here. And by the way, for those who have had the problems with the chemtrails, and we were sharing earlier what you just saw, that the likelihood is it's aerosolized vaccines they're spraying, whether it's up the BC coast to Washington and whatnot. The Trinity Pack from Root is the one that 4 years ago, January, so it's over 4 years now, I've been taking it daily, which restored my smell, my ability to taste, and having never taken the jab, we have seen people with the clinical evidence as provided by Root and the International Science and Nutrition Society, of which now Dr. Christina Rahm, co-founder of Root, who has 3 PhDs, 1 PsyD, and an MD. She has patents that have been issued showing that it also heals long COVID with the Trinity Pack, quantum nutrition from Root, which now is shipping to 90 countries around the world. So listen to Ali tell you about it for 2 minutes. We'll wrap up here before you head.
If you are looking for groundbreaking nutritional products which revolutionize the way your body operates, you have to check out this cutting-edge, American-made, all-natural wellness brand. Root the Trinity Pack from GetRootNow.com is a game changer. Let me show you. Zero In is the world's first quantum-ceutical, an all-natural, adaptogenic nootropic which skyrockets your clarity and creativity. Professional athletes have reported over a 40% increase in their performance in only 90 days. Restore is a supplement that completely restores your gut health, optimizes your true brain, helping you tap into quantum consciousness, also known as the God Mind, altogether with Clean Slate, which gently wipes out harmful heavy metals from your body, gently evacuating toxins including graphene oxide. Trinity Pack from Root altogether helps you increase your performance, longevity, deep sleep, and have a far greater quality of life. Register now at GetRootNow.com to grab your Trinity Pack. Then hit subscribe and save to get $15 back every month. Trinity Pack has also received the gold standard, a worldwide BSCG approval, allowing those in the military to first responders to the NFL, PGA, NBA, FIFA World Cup Soccer, and more feel assured it is indeed all natural and drug-free. Trinity Pack even comes with a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. So when you grab your Trinity at GetRootNow.com, you can feel good knowing it's endorsed by Tier 1 Special Operations Warriors, to lightworkers, benevolent healthcare heroes, professional athletes, and Olympians detoxing their systems and unleashing their greatest self from across the globe. You can also get rewarded for being part of the Root community. See you there!
Have it, everybody. That is Root Trinity Pack. Highly recommend it. And it's actually now been extended to a 60-day money-back guarantee. Order it anywhere around the world. It's absolutely incredible. Plus, you can ask the science. Yes, they have a science team set up for customer service. So you can just go to that link, getrootnow.com/ and it'll take you to the contact part. You can say, hey, I've got this problem, that problem. What about headaches? And they will tell you what works and refer to you any clinical studies that they have on it from these nutritional supplements. There's nothing else like it. It's blessed by Maha. They've briefed Trump. They've briefed RFK. They've briefed Maha. They've briefed the United States military, Clayton Thomas, Dr. Christina Rahm. They've been on here telling you all about this over the years. And it is incredible the results people have. And I started off and had incredible results. So have my loved ones too. We'll leave it at that. Tomorrow, Gene Decode is coming up, and then I have a very special surprise guest on Wednesday. Thank you very much for being here. And remember, on Rumble, after the show closes, it loses all your comments, unfortunately. So if you have anything else you'd like to share with myself, Juan, or our team, please put it in the comment section under Rumble. Mahalo, everybody. Aloha. Have yourself a lovely evening. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.